Oh, hi there. So I came across this amazing video that so many people loved. And it's a Jubilee video, and those can be pretty cringe. I think I reacted once to one where people was speed dating. But this one is titled, Do All Autistic People Think the Same? And it asks these, really interesting questions. And yeah, people really, really loved it. And what I especially like about the video is that they had, just a wide range of people. They even have one nonverbal guy, or he's not talking, he does type out things. Yeah, if you look, I mean, he touched a lot of people, if you can see here by the most watched moments. And then there's this girl who also, she's so eloquent. And one of the main points that I want to emphasize from this video is, how difficult it is to get diagnosed. And it's kind of ridiculous, I mean, at least to me, if you watch this, to think that there are healthcare professionals that look at some of these people and just say, oh no, you don't have autism. But there are other important points too, like it really strikes me how much more eloquent and masking the women here are on average than the men. And then, of course, the answers to the questions themselves are very eye-opening, and some are really surprising. So let's get into it.
Say autistic person, but
Yeah.
you can
My
say
headphones.
either or and I won't give a crap. My name's Jay, I'm 19. I was diagnosed late with autism. There's no way to look autistic, it's just a whole spectrum of people.
I'm Josiah, I'm 18. At first, I was really unsure about it because it sounded like it was bad, but I started to realize that autism is more like me than it is a disease.
My name is Shayna Crashen, I'm 23. Autism is more prevalent than people think, and just if we can
Right on.
build more aware and acceptable towards it, it'll just be a lot easier for everybody.
I am Christopher Carroll. I am 38 years old. I like to act. Is that not related to autism? Okay.
I'm Yoni, I'm 19, and I am an artist of all types. I really am proud to have autism. It makes me see the world differently, and that's totally awesome.
My name is Joseph. Just because I communicate different doesn't mean I do not understand.
My
Aw.
name is Bella. I'm 22 years old. In high school, I couldn't really talk, so I was like nonverbal. I've just become more confident in myself and being able to talk to other people.
Yeah, I almost identify most with her because her talk is so hesitant, and you probably can't tell from my videos because I'm like editing out all these pauses, and I've adopted this thing where I even freeze frame if I don't know the next word, and then continue. And yeah, it sort of works, but yeah, I have that typical very hesitant style of speech, I guess. And some of these, especially the women, are so eloquent and expressive.
I consider the term special offensive. 3, 2, 1, go.
I do find it to be somewhat of a bad label. This person is special, as in too different to function, I guess. It's like when I perform, in the performances I've been in, people begin to whisper in the audience, whisper among themselves, was that person special or not? And that seems a little harsh to me.
Special could be used as something good.
So a little bit later in the video, spoiler alert, he says that he's been to various psychologists and several said he doesn't have autism, which just blows my mind. I mean, wow. I mean, from the posture to the way he talks, his minimal body language, how would somebody not just have doubts but say no, he doesn't have it?
But it can also be used as, you know, something like, oh, like, why aren't
let's jump ahead a little bit.
Special ed, it's extra support ed.
I agree a lot. The word special can mean pretty much anything. It's just the way that people take it, and I don't think that's fair.
I have trouble making friends. 3, 2, 1, go.
It's hard for me to make friends because I am nonverbal.
Oh, that's so sad. And in the comment section, yeah, everybody loves him, and he does seem like such a cool person. But yeah, I've commented before on my channel that I feel bad kind of almost always when I use the word autism, and I kind of imply high-functioning autism, you know, people who can talk, who are out there in the world, who try relationships, who, you know, interact in their jobs with tons of neurotypicals. And there's this whole other side of autism that's almost being silenced now due to the sheer mass of people who say they're autistic and they're very verbal.
Really start making friends until I started.
Yeah, I hate that they took away the Asperger's label, and there's no separate word right now. So what do you say?
Because I wasn't like in a lot of activities and stuff. I just always wanted to be by myself, and I always found it hard to talk to people.
For the longest time, especially when I was in middle school, I had a bit of a hard time making friends, and so I was basically on my own for a while. But until I went to...
Yeah, again, every one of these answers is very interesting, so make sure to watch the video. Let's jump ahead a little bit.
It's just, so it's just like somewhat agree.
Well, I guess for me,
And so, like, of course, not a lot of people are gonna like me. So it's just,
And yeah, I see that in a lot of female autism YouTubers. And the other day I recorded a video about speech patterns and autistic speech patterns. And then afterwards I felt like kind of bad because it was all men that I used as examples. But it's really so hard with women because a lot of them just perfect the masking, you know, perfect the intonation, the body language, the quirkiness, the humor. Autistic women just tend to be so much better at it than men. And it sucks because, you know, I admit, like, a few years ago I would have looked at her and said, no way she's autistic. She's like as outgoing as the most social, charismatic girls I knew from high school.
just like somewhat agree.
well, I guess for me, it's just, I also have social anxiety, so it's never been easy for me to make friends, but sometimes I just feel better being by myself.
I have a similar problem. When I was younger, I had social phobia, and I spent a lot of childhood just living or playing inside my own head, which didn't exactly seem to help me with people skills.
Yeah, it can trigger things. You can like trigger a meltdown like you don't want to have to deal with.
Sensory issues.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah, I was just saying I feel, yeah.
Being diagnosed with autism helped me understand myself more. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. He often like takes the opposite side on some of these questions for kind of flimsy reasons, and it's almost a little bit that oppositional defiance disorder. I mean, you probably know, if you know autistic people, that some they just never go with a mainstream, with a group dynamic. They almost, you know, consciously always have to set themselves apart. Yeah, to me that's an autism symptom too. Like I'm not going to fit in, so goddamn, I'm not going to fit in.
Well, for years and years, I was wondering, like, why is the music in the car where no one else is saying it's loud? Why is it hurting me? Why can't I make friends easily? Why am I not picking up on sarcasm?
Yeah, I mentioned that I don't listen to music in the car. I often found it, you know, annoying riding with people in the car who turn the music up way loud and try to have a conversation.
I feel like it really did help me understand myself because I stopped feeling so bad.
My body and brain sometimes work against each other.
When I first read what do they call, like, it's not symptoms, like...
Criteria.
What?
Criteria.
Yeah, the criteria for autism, it was like mind-blowing because it was like reading something I didn't even know existed and could be put into words. Like I said, I thought everybody was just dealing with it and hiding it better. And I've turned to so much more self-love since I found out about my diagnosis just 2 years ago. It's just been like probably the most freeing thing for me.
I actually used to have meltdowns like daily. I would just get so angry and nobody knew why.
Yeah,
and I
just
didn't
for
know
little
why.
things would just pop it off.
And I realized that after I got diagnosed with autism, everybody around me noticed how less angry and how less my meltdowns were, because you start to know how to prevent them, because you start to know what's making you melt down.
Well, I think I have to say I somewhat disagree because I've not actually...
Yeah, again, and look at his body language, how he stands there with his feet turned in and arms close to his body and kind of frowns at what other people say. I mean, it blows my mind that any healthcare professional would look at him and not immediately think potential autism, let's help him with that. That some would say, no, you don't have it. Maybe because he's a performer or because he does have friends or...
actually been diagnosed. No one's tested me for autism. So what do we go by? Just simply what a doctor happens to say on any given day? Or
so he contradicts himself a little bit. He says he hasn't been tested for autism, but the doctors told him he doesn't have it. So maybe they told him right off the bat he doesn't have it. He doesn't even need to be tested. But
what made you want to come today?
A few doctors have said I have autism. Although at least twice as many doctors I've known have said I do not.
What do you believe?
As
or
of
do you just
now,
not care?
I believe I do have autism somewhere, but I can't say I agree with the diagnosis because I don't actually have a diagnosis.
Are you planning to get one in the future?
I don't know anyone who will give me one.
That's a big issue, actually. They're crazy expensive and crazy hard to get.
That's
It's like a whole ordeal.
I got one from my psychiatrist because I was already under his care.
Yeah.
yeah, and I made a video on that, of course, why I haven't been officially diagnosed and don't care. Because in America, you might spend a lot of money, go to a healthcare professional, and then they might not even diagnose you. So you paid a lot of money for what? And actually, that's what the comment section is a lot about.
Really does help me, especially, to find a different route with education. Like, I had a huge problem with mathematics and stuff like that. And now, after I got diagnosed, and I'm going to the school that helps...
Let's jump ahead a little bit. What question is this?
I get pity for a lot of things.
Oh,
because I don't have only autism, I have
it bothers me when people pity me.
Mental illnesses and medical conditions too, and everyone, when I tell them all of them, they're like, how can you be happy? Your life sounds difficult. I'm like, it's not that, it's just what I know. It doesn't have to be the end of my world, and I don't like getting pity for the things I have, because just because I'm disabled doesn't mean my life necessarily sucks because of that.
Yeah.
Your job? Up against the mic.
I can't change the way I am, so instead of pity, I want people to try to understand and accept me the way I am.
It's also just don't pity me, be with me, be with me in the moment, don't feel bad for me, as if you can't do anything, treat me like I am just a normal person.
So growing up, people used to baby me, and now I look at being 22, I look back and it's they just should have probably treated me like a normal child.
Because that can be a hindrance in itself, people babying you. That can be another added knock that you don't,
Makes me feel like I can't be my own person.
Yeah.
I used to have that problem with a lot of people. They would be like, oh, it's okay, we're all a little autistic or something like that. And it's no, I hate that comment so much, and I get it so many times.
I hate that comment too.
Yeah.
We're not all autistic. Just because you have you relate to a couple of the things on the traits doesn't mean that you're autistic necessarily. You have to have more than just...
Yeah, everybody has some difficulty connecting with others. There's always friction, but with autism it's on a whole another level, but that makes it so hard to talk about it. Where does extreme introversion and being a nerd and maybe being a loner, where does that end and where does autism start? Or actually there's, obviously a lot of overlap. And I, of course, have now gravitated to the opinion where I feel if somebody really, really wants to socially connect but is just pretty inept at it, to me that's always autism. Even if that person, has their life together. I mean, it's not autism spectrum disorder necessarily, but it's definitely traits of autism.
3 things,
Yeah.
Then you're just being a person. If you just relate to a few, it's like...
She's so smart. Let's
2, 1, go.
skip ahead here.
I strongly disagree because if I didn't have autism, I wouldn't be the same
Yeah.
exact person.
So the question here is, I would rather not have autism. And most people obviously
Part
here
of my identity.
disagree.
Would I really be the same person if I didn't have autism? But I think I have to stick with just somewhat because I haven't.
Again, he couldn't be with a group. He always has to, set himself apart here. But yeah, it's an interesting question because, I only realize now, looking back at my life, how much it has held me back. But if somebody would ask me, would I live my life over not being autistic? It's almost, my teens and 20s. I mean, it had so many psychological, physiological effects on me with my struggles. And the fact that I decided to marry a absolutely god-awful man who was already married several times and a lot older than me, and it really screwed up my life in a lot of ways. But of course now, where I am now, I like myself how I am. I wouldn't want to be different, Maybe I would be working on a nice, corporate job right now on this Sunday on some interesting projects, instead of, recording things for my YouTube channel, which not that many people watch, but, I like myself how I am now. And I do see a lot of, the grass isn't greener with neurotypicals as they get older.
I haven't actually been diagnosed with autism, so.
Another thing is that the issues and the struggles that I have with being somebody with autism is that I encounter day to day mostly have to do with the fact that I'm living in a neurotypical world, not that I have autism, if that makes sense. So I would much rather live in a world that's more aware of autism or a less neurotypical heavy world. That would be what I would rather change, not changing myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. And part of why I'm making this channel, let's get more aware how commonplace autism is, and then let's make sure that as much as we can, we help people on the spectrum fit in. Let's leverage their strengths. Let's make sure that there are jobs that are suitable for them. If not for my generation, then at least, our kids and grandkids.
I may have autism, but that makes me who I am, and I wouldn't change it if I had the choice.
Preach, Joe, preach.
Preach, I feel that.
That's why I prefer diagnosis first language, like autistic person, than people with autism, because personally it's my autism makes up me. It's not just a part of me. My diabetes is a part of me. My pancreas not working doesn't affect the way I act, the way I am, but my autism affects the way I see the world, the way I process, the way I feel things, the way I go about things and socialize. And even though I don't like everything...
I use it obviously interchangeably. I say, autistic people do this or that, or people with autism, or I have autism, or... to me it's all the same.
About myself, I don't think that being not autistic would make me love myself suddenly. I think it's just about the fact that I just need to work on accepting myself more in general. So I feel like I'd rather have my autism because it's made me me.
I would say personally, I'm a person with autism, but I also don't care really how people use it. I remember when they started saying autistic person versus person with autism, I was like, oh, Okay.
I don't care that
Yeah,
much. It's
exactly.
just if
I
I
don't
had
care
to
either.
pick,
Yeah.
like, I don't, you call me either, but if I had to pick personally, like if I'm gonna refer to myself, I'm gonna say autistic person, but
Yeah.
you can say either or and I won't give a crap.
Because to me, I see it as like a neurotypical community being like, oh, we just need to be as nice as we possibly can. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like I've never heard an autistic person freak out about it, really. I always
Yeah, she does this overacting thing a little bit that I don't always, super like in a, but it's often effective, so.
it's your neurotypical people freaking out about it.
I feel connected to other people on the spectrum. 3, 2, 1, go.
That's going here.
Well, like I kind of agree because some people have the same exact things that I go through, but then also somewhat disagree because there's like higher functioning and lower functioning, so it's kind of hard to connect to people that are like, I don't know how to say that. Yeah.
I get that, yeah, because they're so different, I guess. It could be, I guess, harder to, connect in some degree, but we may not all go through the same exact things, but as a label, like autism, I think we can all like connect to that, and that's how I feel like with the label.
Yeah, I think autism, by its nature, is sort of the disability that it's the hardest to create a lobby for, people who have it and who stick then together and lobby for, pushing through changes. Yeah, because by our very nature, we are not as able to connect with each other. And then you have the sad symptom where a lot of people get super successful who are on the spectrum, like Elon Musk, then just even work against the autistic community.
With that label, I feel like there's a good sense of community there.
I do agree. It's like, although we have different stories about how,
I've noticed a rise in communities online
yeah,
for autism.
neurodiversity and stuff
Yeah.
like that, so.
When I first found out, it was like great to like deep dive into the internet and get all these autistic perspectives. But then when I went in real life and I started to meet people or started to talk to people more, I felt just kind of isolated again, and I felt kind of like that same thing. I think it's just the same thing. If I'm in a group of neurotypical people, if I'm in a group of autistic people, I'm just gonna still kind of feel alienated, and so I just kind of stopped trying after a while.
It helps when you don't have to explain yourself to others and you can just relax and hang out without any judgment.
Honestly.
That's true.
So right, Joe?
Thank you, Joe.
All right, guys, that's a wrap.
Yeah, so I thought this video was really lovely, and I think I skipped over another part where somebody was talking about the difficulty of getting a diagnosis, but yeah, that was a big takeaway. And if we look here at the comments, Joseph truly mastered the art of making strong, brief statements, and I remember when I was little, I was elementary school, and the teacher, once I gave an answer and I rarely spoke up in class. Of course, I made always straight A's and stuff, but once the teacher said my name, if she doesn't say much, but when she says something, es hat Hand und Fuß, it has hand and foot, which in German means like it's a comprehensive answer. And I think I remember that because I was like literally picturing hand and foot for my answer. But yeah, it's the same here. When you don't talk much, but when you talk, you try to say something real and keep it short. Yeah, lots of people commenting on Joseph, and then the difficulty of autism screenings. Yeah, I had too many friends to be autistic. I mean, the criteria is so kind of ridiculous with the question sheets where it's often, they apply like to preschoolers but later on, yeah, everybody has different coping mechanisms, and you might answer and say, oh, you know, I don't seem very autistic at all, but it's like your whole life was like a series of extreme sports coping, trying to fit in with neurotypical people. Yeah, people applauding that they put Joseph into that lineup. And yeah, people just so connect with him. I don't know what to do about it. I mean, I don't know what it's like. We'll never pretend to know what it's like not to be able to talk. Yeah, exactly. Problem is not autism, it's society's lack of understanding and just complete lack of guidance to young people. Yeah, the body language. If you go and watch the video, just pay attention to the body language, you know, the stimming, everybody has their quirks that you can see if you watch not just the person who's answering, but if you like watch in the group what the other people are doing. Yeah, that's a good answer too. They're communicating rather than performing a script. Very often, you know, in YouTube videos where people with autism talk, they perform a script. I try not to do it, but of course I will like way plan out my videos, and it's not entirely natural. It's interesting that he points out how everybody moved their eyes, how they spoke, you know, their tone being a little flatter. Yeah. Oh, so this is actually Christopher here, I guess. Yeah, again, I think it's totally valid to just realize you're autistic, especially if you can clearly see it in your family, in your siblings, in your kids, if you have some, and your life is not just a little bit of difficulty connecting with others, but like extreme social difficulty, and then the complete exhaustion if you have to socialize a ton. Yeah, people talk about expert opinions, but you know, again, one of my most popular videos is that about a healthy gamer, GG, with Dr. K, a YouTube famous psychiatrist, just completely dropping the ball with a young guy who, in my opinion, was just so clearly on the spectrum. Yeah. Anyway, great Jubilee video. Go and watch the whole thing. Just wanted to react to it, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.